What are your memories of with the Midnight Express, you and Tully? You started the angle with them, and then eventually you guys left.
Well, Bobby Eaton and I were like two brothers. We were as close as Rick and I were close. Bobby lived a rock's throw behind me, so we traveled together a lot on some of the driving shots. Rick would fly some of the longer ones. We would drive them. That was just the luxury of being world champion. So we traveled together a lot, and I think him and Dennis Condrey were probably the best team I ever saw, at that time. Purely manipulative, utilizing their manager. Cornette was right there. I mean, they were great. And they were classic matches. We didn't get to wrestle them, obviously, as long as we should have, because that was right about the time we left.
Now, I guess, how did your negotiations come about with Vince?
There were some incidents. Let's see. There were some incidents in the front office of where we're going to be sold to Turner. Are we not? Are we going bankrupt? Are we going belly up? I know that Jim Crockett was in a lot of financial duress. At that point in time, we were as hot as you could possibly be. We did the angle with the Midnight Express, and coming out of the Great American Bashes, all the advances were actually up. The matches were Luger and Flair, us against the Midnight Express. And we did the new Charlotte Coliseum, we did like 20,000 people, which is near capacity, which is huge. We couldn't get a straight answer from Jim Crockett. He had made us a promise, contract-wise. We had done a pay-per-view from Long Island earlier. He had made us a promise on a payoff that didn't come through. Basically, he was swerving us, and we knew there was a point in time that if we're going to make a change, that was the time to do it. I put out a feeler, and he said, absolutely. Something happened in Houston that wasn't to our liking as far as being just treatment on television. It had nothing to do with winning or losing or who we were wrestling, but there was just an incident that I'd rather not go into. I addressed it with Jim Crockett. He didn't handle it properly. So I went and picked up the phone and called Vince McMahon.
Was Rick shocked that you guys were leaving, or was he standing behind you guys?
He didn't believe it.
You didn't believe it?
Yeah, he didn't believe it. I called Vince that night. He said, there'll be a first-class plane ticket sitting there for you in the morning. We flew to Stanford. He picked us up in the limo, took us to his house. We sat out by the pool, put the deal together, flew back to Philly that night, walked in and told Jim Crockett, this is our last night.
Right, and you lost the belts in Philly.
We lost the belts to the Midnight Express. Bobby Eaton beat me right in the middle with leg off the top, Alabama Jam, and we left. Rick didn't believe it. He believed, all these guys are blowing off steam. The next afternoon, we had an afternoon show in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And he called. We weren't there. Then it occurred to him, it was time for TV to start. We weren't there, and he cracked.
How did the rest of the boys react?
There's probably a lot that wanted to see us go. There was probably a lot that didn't. The guys that were confident in their position and their abilities, I'm sure, hated the fact that deal was over, because the Horsemen carried Jim Crockett Promotions, for a long time. Drew a lot of money, and I'm not saying we were the entire company. That's the farthest thing from the truth. The Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, Magnum, Nikita, Ivan Koloff. We had a huge array of talent. Dusty, obviously all these guys. The Garvins, everybody. But we were the consistently top three matches, every night for years. And to see that broken up wasn't good for the wrestling business. It certainly wasn't good for the company. And I'm sure the guys that wanted to move up the ladder were tickled to death.
Right. What were your initial impressions of Vince?
Probably the most intelligent, articulate, smoothest guy I've ever met. He was the classiest. he would come up and he would talk to you for 5 minutes, and when he walked off, you felt like you had to get your feet back on the ground. He made you feel that good about yourself. And go on record as saying, the 14 months I was there, they treated me as a company better than I'd ever been treated in my life.
That was one of my questions. Did he make good on all his promises?
Everything. Everything. And then some. The only reason I left, period, is I had a 3-year-old son, which is my oldest now. And when he started, we were gone 24 days a month, bar none. That was the schedule. 24 days gone. We were never in Charlotte. We never ran any towns that I could drive back and forth to. And it cracked me. You know, he was crying, "Daddy, when are you coming home?" And I cracked. And I just told him, "Vince, I got to go home."
Right.
And that's why I made the deal to come back here, because they were only working 8 days a month in WCW.
Right.
That was it. Basically just doing television. And the difference in 8 and 24, do the math.
Now, how different were the locker rooms from the NWA days when you were in WWF?
The politics is completely different. They have very stringent locker room rules that are unsaid. Some are said, some are unsaid. There's cardinal rules, things you don't break. Most of the guys that go to work for Vince, if they're allowed to, they stay until he runs them off. It is such a good place to work, and you make a good living. And if he puts you in that one spot for 6, 8 months, and you have one of those $500,000 runs, or end up doing $1 million for the year, you're set up for life in essence. I know a lot of guys, that had a run with Hogan that have saved $500,000 in 6 months. That's big money.
Right.
That's huge money. So the guys there always were very protective of their slot. The politics was such that they tried to keep any shady stuff out of their locker room. They didn't want locker room lawyers, as we call them, walking around,
right?
Knocking the company, taking the guys down, because the grind was so bad. And as far as working so many days, that dressing room had to be your sanctuary. It had to be a place that you could take a breath and relax. Everything needed to be positive. And that's kind of the way the guys police themselves up there, and they keep it that way. WCW, the crowds were so bad, and everyone was down, and this guy was jealous of what this guy was making, and da-da-da-da. It was a different environment.
How did you and Tully get paired with Bobby? Because you guys were great talkers. Did you feel you guys needed a manager? Or?
No, but the beauty of it was, at that time, we were scared to death that Vince was going to do what he did with a lot of guys, or most guys, change their character.
Right.
But he didn't. Gave us a different name, obviously, but didn't change our look.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.